the next Republican debate is tonight. And it's the first debate that Donald Trump is not first in the polls. Ben Carson's now first in Iowa, and he's overtaken Donald in at least one national poll. Josh, is this the inevitable downturn we all foresaw for Trump, or is he going to be able to make up ground after tonight's debate?
Here's the thing. It is interesting. Anyone who says they know what's going to happen with Trump or the election is full of shit. So, I mean, the answer to that question is always we have no idea, because Trump shouldn't exist. You know, he shouldn't have been the front runner for 4 months of the 6 that he was. And the fact that, you know, the Ben Carson is the replacement who's, I mean, the only difference between him and Trump is that he's nicer. Like, he's a little more soft-spoken, a little more humble, but he's just as, if not more, inept when it comes to, you know, again, one of the pieces I did this week was in talking to interviewers, he was unable to explain his own Medicare policy and his own plan to use private savings accounts. And the follow-up question was simply, okay, so then his statement was that he was going to, you know, people would just choose his plan over Medicare because it would be better. And when he was asked if that's going to involve, he wouldn't answer. Not that he wouldn't. He seems like he couldn't answer because he had no idea. So it will be interesting to see, you know, when Trump was at the top, no one could just take a shot at Trump because he's going to come back just as hard and probably win. But with Carson, and especially with the stuff being not so much him talking about, you know, undocumented immigrants or abortion or even the policing thought on college campuses, it's about policy. So I think that anyone gunning for the outsider, whether it's Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, or even Ted Cruz, who I think is most likely to pick up their voters once Carson and Trump are inevitably ruled out, it's going to be very interesting to see, because Carson's going to probably be on the defensive.
Well, I completely understand why Donald Trump is so popular. He's outspoken. He says these, crazy things that people can get behind. But Eric, what makes Ben Carson so popular? It's mind-blowing. We talked about last week, obviously in Iowa, it's the evangelical thing. But the CBS poll has him first nationwide now. How is he appealing to this many voters?
Well, I would say, one, for the Republican voters, he taps into that religious side. He plays the kind of radical religiosity very well. He appeals to them. He has that calm demeanor that you can trust, that he knows what he's talking about, even when he is saying crazy things. I mean, I think what he said recently, or maybe a couple months ago, that Obama would run for a third term or something that he knows is absolutely untrue. But for some reason, he tries to believe that it could actually happen, as if, Obama's some tyrannical dictator that wants to take our guns and, put us down. But yeah, I guess it's his calm demeanor. He comes across as, the soft-spoken grandfather that you can trust.
Peter, what is it about Ben Carson that taps into the American psyche? Is it just a religious thing, or is there something else here?
It's tough to really say. I mean, I agree with my colleagues here. I mean, I can't figure out what Ben Carson is doing. I mean, you listen to him sometimes, you get the impression that somebody just kind of hauled him into a room and said, pretend you're running for president and say something about that. He doesn't really seem to stand for anything. I mean, he's got his sort of anti-abortion and anti-this, he's got the usual Republican antis. But you can find that in pretty much anybody who says they're a hardcore Republican. I suspect that a lot of his support is simply because people are getting bored with Donald Trump. And he's the most likely candidate to pick up the crazies from Donald Trump at this point. Other than that, I really don't even understand why he's in the race or what he's hoping to achieve. I suspect, though, that the real fun tonight, first of all, of course, Trump will always be good for a few laughs, and he'll come out swinging against Carson for sure. But I think the question is going to be whether or not the Bush campaign implodes tonight, whether Ted Cruz implodes tonight, whether Mike Huckabee, shows up and implodes tonight. I mean, this field is big, and it's not serving anybody's needs at this point in time. There's a handful of these candidates that everybody knows has no chance whatsoever. They're basically campaigning in hopes of either increasing their public profile or maybe getting a cabinet position at some point if there's a Republican president. But I mean, it's really time for these guys to sort themselves out, and it's possible that we'll see the first step on that tonight. So we'll see where we go.
Well, the one thing about Ben Carson that I feel that no one's brought up that may speak a little bit to his appeal, and it's indelicate to sort of talk about, though, but it's his race. I mean, it's undeniable that part of what made Obama's candidacy in 2008 so exciting for people was not so much the substance of what Obama said, even though he could spin a good speech, and it wasn't so much that, the message of the campaign and the organizational structure that they had or the insane amounts of money he raised, although, of course, that all played a role. But there was just something fun about the idea of electing the first black president. And I think that it's at all possible that the Republican primary candidacy field is more, racially diverse than the Democratic one this time around is a huge, huge boon to Republicans. And I think that part of what they like about Ben Carson is that it speaks to the idea that if you're a racist, you're a Republican. Not that all Republicans are racist, but all racists probably vote Republican. And I think there's something about being able to say, no, Ben Carson, he's my guy. And not even bring up the race that's satisfying to those voters. So I think that there's that kind of appeal on the other side of it. For the Democrats, it was about electing the first black president. For the Republicans, I think getting behind Ben Carson shows I'm not a racist. And I think that for a lot of, well-meaning, conservative-minded folks, that's important to them.
Fair enough. I have African American friends too, but I think not to be too flip about it, but I mean, race was so 2008. This time around, the meme seems.
No, this time it's gender. If you listen to Hillary,
it's gender exactly. And I think if the Republicans had any brains left at all, they would be digging deep trying to find a strong woman candidate, at least to take on a VP, a vice presidential role, because Hillary is making huge gains off of the idea that you can again be part of history here. Just like in 2008, you were part of history by electing the first African American president. You can be part of history again by putting the first woman in the White House. It's a persuasive argument to a lot of our population, particularly gay and lesbian voters, certainly women voters, and a lot of the more liberal Democratic voters who still remember the buzz, from 2008. So the Republicans can maybe milk Carson to an extent, but boy, if I was head of the Republican National Committee, would I be out there beating the bushes trying to find a powerful woman candidate, and I don't think Carla Fiorina is close to it, to put up on that stage.